Is everyone ready for day 2 of DreamHack Summer here in sunny Sweden? Jönköping, it's really sunny, like 30 degrees Celsius, at least feels like it. Here, even more in the studio where I'm sitting with Lorinda and Gaskin. How are you guys doing after the day 1?
Pretty hot and sweaty. Yeah, you're quite right. It's pretty hot here, hot in the hotel, but also a lot of fantastic Hearthstone action. All the good players seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, it seems we had a big lineup. So one of the things when you have a good lineup is you end up with good players in the top of the Swiss. But this time around, we have got lots of really good players right at the top there.
Just a little recap from what was happening during day 1. Just so you guys know, we have a Swiss tournament here. So 200 players lined up yesterday to battle in 6 rounds, and it's still not finished because we are playing 9 rounds of Swiss. After the 9 rounds, we're cutting 2 top 16, which is the playoff stage. So we are still 3 rounds ahead when it comes to the full schedule, and after that we'll see the final and, well, we'll crown our champion. So we can actually take a look at the standing and talk a little bit about what was happening yesterday. Lorinda.
Okay, so Hoy and Zigzo recently signed for their new team. They're both 6-0 playing for Planet Odd. But all of these 5 and 1s, you need 7. That's the magic number that will get most people through. 1 or 2 may miss out on tie breaks. All of these guys going incredibly well. If you just look down there, mainly the best in Europe. Not much NA hanging out in there this time around, but
I feel like not many players from NA actually visited here, right? That's one of the things. But what actually stands out is Mitsuhide, the former champion of Grand Prix, with a 5-1 score, looking very good to actually go into the top 16, at least so far.
And you bring that up because that's your pick at the start of the tournament.
That's my pick from yesterday, so I'm super happy to see him go well and deep into this tournament. But also, apart from Mitsuhide, we have names like Orange, who actually started yesterday losing on stream. Turns out it wasn't
He won.
Yeah, and then he won like 5-0 or something like that. It was pretty crazy. Yesterday we had Zetalot absolutely crushing everyone. 15 games in a row won. Can you imagine that? 15 games?
Especially after losing the first round as well. To go on winning 5 series in a row, I think, were they all with Paladin? I'm not sure. Either way,
with Paladin.
The fact he was sweeping 3-0 so comfortably just shows that this man is fantastic at Hearthstone. And there were so many respect bans as well.
And that helped him.
Banning away his priest because they're like, well, Zetalot plays priest, no for playing priest. Let's ban his priest. And actually, he was like, okay.
Yeah, we saw his technical play in one of those matches towards the end yesterday. He is good at this game. It's not just all about the priest. If they keep banning the priest, which may not even be his strongest deck, I think people are going to get into trouble.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what is going to happen in round 7, 8, and 9, because that's what we're going to go into in a few seconds. But first match will actually be Mitsuhide versus... What's his name, Lorinda?
I knew you were going to do this to me. Nesimuistyk.
Oh,
I'm going with Nesimuistyk. Is that good enough?
Nesimuistyk. It's okay. It's okay. It's great.
I'm learning.
Okay.
I'm glad you gave it to him rather than me. Okay
we were just, kind of having a conversation before. It's like, oh my God, why did you pick that player?
Yeah, I was shouting at admins. It's like, can't you just pick Hoy versus Zigzo? I can say those words.
Actually, Zigzo with the 6-0 is actually like kind of a meme, right?
It really is. And we won't, just to point out to people, actually, we won't necessarily be showing the people right at the top of the standings because you'll see plenty of them in the top 16 and beyond.
Exactly.
We're going to be concentrating on the 5-1s and the 4-2s. The people are still in with a good chance of getting there, but not necessarily cruising through.
And people that might be eliminated from the matchups as well. It's always nice to see, well, I say nice to see people eliminated from the tournament, but it's always good to see who's going to be progressing and who's going to be dropping out.
All right, well, now let's look at the picks and bans for the first match between Mitsuhide and Nesimuistyk. Okay, let's say like that. Nesimuistyk comes with the lineup that we have seen very often yesterday. Right?
Yeah, a lot of yesterday we were seeing Paladin, Druid, and Shaman. We were seeing Rogue rather than Mage in quite a few of the matchups, but I'm happy with Mage being there as well. So very similar lineup from both, of course, just looking at the classes, but it might be a little bit different when it comes to the decks on the front.
Yeah, these seem to be the classes that people have been going with. The Druid tending to be Jade Druid so far from what we have seen, although I've seen screenshots around Twitter of people dying to turn 1 Innovate Fledgling.
We did see one aggro Druid yesterday. Certainly Jade Druid is a lot better in the control meta at the moment. We've seen a few different variants of Jade Druid as well. We've seen Enchanted Ravens in the deck. We've seen Moonfires, Acolyte of Pains, Wild Pyromancers. So people are trying to intertwine different kind of features to make more kind of successful decks, I guess.
True. That's the last hero standing for you. But now we're going to just go into the match, so don't go anywhere. Casters, take it away.
So both players at 5-1, looking to go to 6-1 if they take this one. If they do fall to 5-2, that's when it starts to get a little bit sticky. But you still do have a chance at 5-2 because you've already got to this point. Your tiebreaker should be relatively good, right?
Yeah, 7-2. If you're shown on stream today at any point, you're in with a very good chance indeed of making the top 16, where it all goes to single elimination. And 5-1, 6-1 should be good.
And how much do you think this means to Mitsuhide? I mean, as a previous champion of a DreamHack Grand Prix, surely he's going to want to make that a 2-time champion. For
sure. Like, he was in that one of the brackets of players where everybody knows he's a good player, but then you win one thing and you've got to... It's been 6 months. And he hasn't done a great deal since. I mean, he has, behind the scenes, he's been doing okay in HCT events, etc. But actually, his face hasn't been on the screen that much. And he recently left his team. He's on Twitter asking for, somebody sign me. Might be a good idea if he keeps winning DreamHacks.
Yes, if you're going to win a DreamHack, it certainly shows you are a fantastic Hearthstone player. But game number 1 then, first game of the day here on Sunday at the DreamHack Grand Prix. And it's going to be Murloc Paladin against what we would expect, the Evolved Shaman. And I say expect, Lorinda, because yesterday we casted a whole game expecting to see Evolved Shaman from the Token Shaman, and there was no Evolved Doppelgangster.
Wow, yeah, that was the last match of the day, of course. Yeah, people just sometimes don't play that. Why would you?
They just decided to put Jades in instead.
Keep the damage coming.
Yeah, they obviously wanted to try and make some form of a consistent deck. They didn't want the Evolve element in it. May have punished them. Who knows? But anyway, moving into this one. It is a decent start, actually. Being able to get the Tidecaller out, followed by the Inquisitor, is always an opening that you are more than happy to have. He could have played the Chum, though. Opted not to.
Yeah, wanting to get those minions with the high health totals out there really early on. That way he can fight for the board better against the Shaman has all these low, small health guys, and if they don't have the Flame Tongue, and Mitsuhide doesn't have the Flame Tongue, then should be able to clear up a lot of the board with these 1-2s and 1-3s. But as you can see, both decks just built for this early game to fight so intensely for the board.
Yeah, Mitsuhide opting to put a little bit of damage onto the Inquisitor there as well. Just in case there is any buff that comes through, it means that he can get one hit where the Bloodsail Corsair survives, and he can trade next turn accordingly with his weapon. And now Nesi can play these buffs to the Murloc, and that's going to be a big old Hydrologist.
Nesi.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nesi.
Loch Ness Monster. I don't know if it is. I don't know if I'm good with that, having just spent 10 minutes trying to learn his name. But yeah, okay. And Mitsuhide is still just picking up things that he can spam the board with. Can he defend the totem? It seems like he can defend it pretty well. The Primal Fin, just play it out there.
At least he is running the Doppelgangster Evolve. I'm not going to be in a tricky situation like I was yesterday, so that's always good. And at the moment, as always in the early game of this particular matchup, you've just got the fight for tempo on the board. And luckily, there is a 4/4 Hydrologist that you can put on the board with a secret. So at least Nesi can get back into the board control in that sense.
Yep, and not the best getaway Kodo's okay for later, but there might not be a later if he doesn't deal with the board soon. Yeah, he's just going to go for that very quick value.
Yeah, it would be nice if it gave it the Hydrologist back as a 4/4, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that, which is a real shame. Instead, now speaking of value, Mitsuhide, well, you can play the Stonehill Defender, that's about it. It doesn't feel great when you're trying to play a tempo play. I mean, yes, okay, it generates a lot of value into your hand, but as a board presence of 1/4, it's not doing too much.
And he does want to defend that Primal Fin, though. So, I mean, what are the other options? Just play the Firefly and the other 1/2 associated with it. Flame Elemental. He's going to go this way. And he'd have looked for something a bit beefier, I think. I think he's gone through the early game, got the board. He'd have wanted something bigger than this, and Hot Spring's just the biggest available of those.
Yeah, can't risk Dirty Rat, of course, in case you pull anything, well, like a Tyrion. Easy for me to say that because I can see it, but it is always something you are concerned about when playing against Paladin anyway. And that's a pretty good draw with Nesi to try and refill this hand that is slowly dissipating. Yes, okay, he's all right when it comes to turn 6, and now another Tyrion if he wants it. but I wonder whether he sees that as being a little bit too late. Could just opt for going something like a Tar Creeper to try and kind of deal with this aggression that Mitsuhide is putting on the board right now. He does have to think about Bloodlust,
right.
think about Evolve, and how is he going to counter that aggression?
Yeah, I think if he gets to the first Tyrion, he'll be fine, so I don't think he'll want to... Yeah, he'll go for the second one. He does, in fact, pick up the Tar Creeper, and with that in mind, he's just going to be able to build the board.
Yeah, build as much board as possible. Bloodlust would help him just easily cut through these minions. Maybe a little bit of a waste, though. I think I prefer just playing the Hot Spring Guardian. Maybe a Totem as well.
Mitsuhide's got a decision to make here whether to play around any sort of board clear or just go really wide and get the Bloodlust out. So he'll be thinking through the previous turns as to, can I work out what's in my opponent's hand? Because if he gets the go-ahead to go as wide as possible here, he can just win this in 2 or 3 turns' time. But he probably won't, because he'll need to actually play around various things like Consecration for obvious reasons.
And we saw this matchup several times yesterday, actually, and the Paladin seemed to be the victor in most cases purely because of the amount of board clear that it was having. We saw the Pyromancers and Inequalities coming out often, we saw the Consecrates coming out, the Primordial Drakes, and they were just dealing with the boards before Bloodlusts were drawn. I think that was the key factor about yesterday. Right. People weren't drawing those Bloodlusts. Mitsuhide does have one in his hand already, though, so he'll definitely be thinking, as you said, about, do I keep this board wide? And why should I keep it wide? Because of the Bloodlust.
So what he's doing is making sure he's got something big enough on board as well, and setting up that Bloodlust. And actually, Nesimuistyk's got real trouble here having any sort of useful play.
I guess he gets value. If he plays the Stonehill Defender, then he's almost guaranteed to get another one back. And he sees that as enough value. Sunkeeper Tarim? See, I like Sunkeeper Tarim, weird, but against Evolve Shaman, Sunkeeper Tarim is a little bit risque.
We've seen it taken in the slower versions of Paladin, so they can deal with the aftermath of the Doppelgangster Evolve, but he's got more immediate problems than that at the moment. There's not going to be an aftermath if he just dies to this board that's out there at the moment.
Yeah, there was a game yesterday, someone took it thinking about the future, and I think it was turn 10 when it came out after a Doppelgangster Evolve, and they were able to deal with those minions very easily, but he really needs to find a way to kind of crawl back into this board control nice and early, and I guess Sunkeeper Tarim's not going to be doing that. However, the Tar Creeper or the Spike Ridge Steed should be able to stabilize this.
Yeah, looking like they're going to put a whole bunch of taunt down there either way, and that means that the Bloodlust will probably just get used up to get through all that health from the taunt minions.
Mitsuhide has an option. He could Bloodlust now if he wanted. Again, probably a little bit unnecessary. It's when you want to pull. It's when you think you can pull as much damage with the Bloodlust as possible.
Right.
Because it could get to a situation against Paladin where they just keep removing your board and you never get an opportunity to put anything more than 3 damage, an extra 3 damage because of the Bloodlust.
Yeah, that's something that Bloodlust does as well. It allows the Shaman to just keep trading, keep control of the board forever. We've all seen this a lot on ladder. You get into this situation and you can't clear. And Mitsuhide now knows there's no Consecration at the moment. He is just getting to the point where he can start going for that Bloodlust.
And, well, this is a bit of a sticky situation. Nezi can put down 2 taunts, and then the Bloodlust can come through onto 7 minions, so there is a lot of damage there.
I think it's 27, so I think he may need to play another taunt. Oh, he's on 24, so that would be 28, so he doesn't actually need to.
So your natural instinct would be to take the Silverback if you didn't have Tar Creeper in hand. But you've got to be thinking about, all right, I'm almost certainly going to play the Tar Creeper this turn. So where's my out? Okay, and another Tyrion is the option.
Yeah, it's got to the point where he's got turn 7s all wrapped up anyway, probably with a Spike Ridge Steed or just anything else in his hand, and then turn 8 will be Tyrion. You might as well go turn 9 Tyrion as well.
So 26 damage available with the Bloodlust. It will allow him just to push enough through to do a lot of damage to face.
Yeah, and clear up these annoying taunt minions as well. And don't forget, he has far more ways to win this. All his damage to face now means that for the rest of the game, Nesimuistyk's going to have to just be scared of the second Bloodlust. He's going to be scared of Doppelgangster Evolve. He's going to be scared of a lot of things. Luckily for him, he has the big man ready to go on turn 8, but he's got to get to turn 8 somehow.
Yeah, there's no way he can get there. You're just dead. You can't put a Tyram down.
He can gain 2 health from the True Silver. Does that help enough?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I mean, I guess yes.
It keeps him alive.
Yeah, I mean, I say he's dead. I mean, actually, on board, he's not yet. But it's more the precedent of the game. You know how this one's going to spell out. I guess he could have been a little bit optimistic there and gone for the True Silver, gain 2 health and see how it played out. But instead, does just concede, and Mitsuhide is going to take the first game with his Evolve Shaman. Evolve Shaman has been very prominent in this tournament.
Yeah, I think in Last Hero Standing, you want a deck that can go 3-0 for... I mean, you always want a deck that can go 3-0, but yeah, when it actually is winner stays on, if you like. So getting that token Shaman deck, I think it's the most balanced deck in Hearthstone at the moment in terms of it hasn't got a massive weakness yet. It's not too good against Mage. It's not too good against Taunt Warrior, but it can still win those, and it's so good in its good matchups. I think it's a natural pick.
It's worth bringing just for how good it can be against Jade Druid, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very successful against Jade Druid, and Jade Druid is very popular in this control meta. And now, excuse me, we're going to have a Mirror, the Evolve Shaman for Nezi, as well. Mirror is a very different matchup, a very different style of play that you're going to go for when you're playing the Token Shaman, Evolve Shaman. You really need to look for those Evolves, perhaps early on. Think of them just as buffing your minions to try and get a board advantage. Hope that you're not going to be cleared by something like a Maelstrom Portal. And actually, Jade Claws is also a big factor in the early game.
Yeah, Jade Claws, just a key part of this curve in the Mirror. It enables you to deal with opposing 1/2s. And these early turns can be, I keep saying this, they can be brutal, but we've hardly seen anybody on stream picking up the Flame Tongue, so they've been a little bit less brutal than normal. But as you can see here, there's going to be an exchange of minions before things really get going here.
Yeah, both players getting the Jade Claws, which is important, allows them to trade, but a Bloodsail Corsair for Mitsuhide may be able to swing him a slight advantage in this position. And of course, he hasn't drawn patches, so Nezi will be a bit frustrated in that sense.
Hasn't drawn patches, and Nesimuistyk has. And there were people on Twitter yesterday complaining they drew patches and winning. Like, if you draw patches and win, it doesn't matter, guys. You don't have to complain about everything. That's my job.
Mitsuhide valuing the damage from his weapon there rather so than the extra minion on board as well from patches. And we're in this position, again, where turn 3 Stonehill Defender, yes, okay, it's not great to put a 1/4 on board, but there isn't anything to contest it at the moment from your opposition. So you're in a comfortable enough spot that you can play it. Interesting
choice here, because the game can go long enough for Alakir to be relevant, especially as a removal card. Like, you don't have many comeback mechanisms in this outside of Devolve and Portal. And so taking Alakir can mean that if you get behind later on, and his curve's okay in the meantime, he'll draw into stuff he can do. You've got a hero power you can do. Alakir's actually decent for just clearing up some annoying 0/3s.
Mitsuhide punished ever so slightly for not trading using his weapon earlier. Bloodsail Corsair being ripped off the top and demolishing that one.
Of course, he gets the news now that one of those 4 cards in Nesimuistyk's hand is indeed patches.
Silly patches, what's he doing? You're not meant to be in the hand.
You can't tell him what to do. He's in charge.
Oh, sorry.
You can't tell the boss what to do. Damn. He's not telling anyone what to do anymore. Dan's gone. So, Mitsuhide playing the fact that he's got the board control now and he is able to start drawing some cards. The card advantage in this matchup is interesting. It's not so much the actual number of cards, it's just the fact you have more versatility. A lot of the cards in this deck do different things with the Flame Tongues, the Bloodlusts. And so if you can draw into a wide range of things to do, it just means you can deal with all of the problems your opponent presents.
So there may have been a temptation for Nezi there to play patches and then just evolve to try and regain a little bit of tempo here. Sees it as unnecessary. Does have Bloodlust in hand, so he knows at some point if he can keep a wide enough board, he will be able to make successful trades with it, because Bloodlust isn't just going to be a finisher in this matchup. It's just about keeping that board control. Once you have 7 minions on board, they're above 2 HP, usually you're in a good spot.
Yeah, indeed you are. And that's what he's setting up right now. It is funny how the 0/3s are just such a threat in this. deck. It's like, it's a 0/3 minion, how can it be threatening? And they don't do much. They draw you a card or put a 1/1 on the board. How can that be important?
They are really just a nuisance. They're hard to deal with, especially in the mirror as well, because typically your removal is what? Maelstrom Portal. Yes, with Wrath of Air Totem you can deal 2 damage, but then it still survives. That's the main problem. And even in other matchups as well, Consecration, Primordial Drake, they can survive and then withstand all of that AoE. So really nice body to have on the board. And there's that Flame Tongue totem you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, just by drawing these extra bits of cards, he's just got in a position now, Mitsuhide, where he can kind of do anything apart from instantly win the game. He can tidy things up on the board, or he can make a bigger board himself. He can probably do a bit of both if he wants to go with a Stonehill, but if he does, he's not going to have any time to make the decision. He must have decided what he wants already. Thing from below, pretty easy choice, and yeah, he's going to use the Flame Tongue to tidy up the loose ends on this board and just get into a fantastic position where he's just gained board control and kept it.
And the good thing is that if you try and force out a devolve from your opponent, you're like, well, okay, I've just put 2 3-mana 1/4s. If you want to devolve a 1/4 into a 2-mana card, I might just get some value out of that, because a 3-mana 1/4 typically isn't that great. You could easily get a 2/6, for example.
A 2/6, like a Dirty Rat, for instance.
A Dirty Rat is a 2/6, you are correct.
Quite a lot of variance in those 2 drops, I think. Quite a lot of bad ones, and 1 or 2 just really good ones. We might get Doomsayer, though.
Yeah,
that's not so good.
It's not great, is it?
It's got good stats.
Does it?
0/7?
Yeah, 0/7. Blow up your own board. It's all right.
That'd be your record if you played this round.
So an Abomination was picked up from Nesi earlier, something we haven't touched on yet. Another good way of just removing things that have 2 health.
Yep.
So that's the decision that he's obviously made there. It may be a case that Mitsuhide has to devolve an Abomination if it does come down at any point, however.
Yeah, we did touch on the fact there's not many comeback mechanisms, and the Abomination is exactly that. Definitely right to point that out.
And here's the Bloodlust, as we said, not being used as a finisher,
right,
just to regain a little bit of board control. Interesting decision here, though. Do you want to get rid of his card, or do you want to get rid of the Flame Tongue? And eventually he does say, actually, I would rather get rid of the Flame Tongue.
Yeah, the damage has been done in some ways from the Mana Tide already. It's such a hard decision. Every time you don't kill the Flame Tongue, all that happens is your opponent just loads up a load of taunts next to it, and it just never gets dealt with. So, an investment for the future, although future's not looking too great for Nesimuistyk in this one at the moment. He will be desperate to draw into his own Mana Tides and maybe protect them somehow.
So for Mitsuhide, could just Hero Power, play a Thing from Below if you would like, or just go Mana Tide into the Thing from Below. That is also fantastic.
Yeah, he's nowhere near his combo, and Nesimuistyk does, of course, have the Evolve, so that is a different sort of comeback, I guess, where you just go, okay, here's a bunch of big stats.
It does put Mitsuhide in that kind of position where you are drawing 2 cards a turn and your hand's getting relatively full. I don't think he'll mind too much, though, because he is so far ahead at this point.
Yeah, that can sometimes be a problem against maybe control decks where you can't play the stuff quick enough to scare them, and then you just run out of cards and actually lose to fatigue or something. But yeah, in a mirror match like this, it doesn't matter if he ends up burning some cards, because he is just going to get such value out of the ones in his hand.
A relatively risky play from Nesimuistyk as well there. Devolving a Thing from Below, I mean, it's already a 6-mana card when it's played,
right,
so it is a little bit of a risk. I don't know if that's a good thing for him, though. The 3/5 with Wind Fury, it might punish him if it survives and he gets some sort of Bloodlust off on it, however.
I feel like he just assessed that these Mana Tides are going to draw Mitsuhide, now he's over 6 mana, into the combo. And that will just be GG, because his only way of winning himself is to get the combo down first. I think all other routes to victory are looking pretty sad at this point.
So potential devolve if Mitsuhide wanted to here. If he's concerned about the 2 damage that the Abomination is going to spread across this board.
Yeah, he'd force through 11 if he wanted to. In fact, can he force through a chunk more with a Bloodlust as well? Like 23. That's a lot. Because the Wind Fury would do it twice.
Yeah. And also, really,
yes!
You could go for devolve into Jade Lightning.
Devolve into
depending
Jade Lightning?
on what comes out, of course. I think I like the devolve. But as we were touching on in the previous series, previous game, sorry, sometimes you just Bloodlust when you can jam as much damage as you want to the face.
I think the decision with Mitsuhide here is so far in front is maybe I need those devolves. If he's working out the only way he can lose this game is to the opposing doppelgangster devolve.
Yeah.
Evolve, sorry. Maybe he's just going to save the Devolve so he can do that twice after that combo and still look at his hand. If he did have to do that, he would still be in front. And now he draws his own Doppelgangster, so chances are favour that he will pick it all up first because he's so much further through his deck than Nesimuistyk is.
Yeah, Nesimuistyk just kind of giving a little sign there to say, oh, finally something's gone my way. I was able to roll the Wrath of their Totem. He was kind of shaking his head before that had happened. He feels a little bit hard done by it. It's what I can judge by his body language. Yep. You got to try and not get in those positions, though. Sometimes you can't hate the game.
It is a bit weird coming back first thing in the morning for a two-part Swiss. So you've gone overnight, you're 5-1, you're like, I should be all right tomorrow. Just got to go 2-1. And then you lose the first one. I mean, he's nowhere near lost the first one yet, but in his mind, it's like, if I lose the first one 5-2, and then I've got to win 2 in a row. Oh no, you've spent all night quite hyped up, and suddenly the first thing that happens is you just get behind. And you drew patches in your opening hand. If you want to be negative, then that's going to just get you going down the negative route.
And no route back for Nezi in this game. We saw him concede relatively early in the previous game. It does look like he's actually going to play this one up, but Mitsuhide, having Bloodlust in hand, will of course finish this one off. He has plenty of tools to do so. Could even use Jade Lightning if he would like. Even just Alec here. Depends how you want to do it. How do you want to finish in style? But either way, Mitsuhide is going to go 2-0 up. This is the man who is a previous DreamHack Grand Prix champion. He's 5-1. He wants to be going 6-1, trying to move on to that last 16, and he's putting himself in good nick with this Evolved Shaman, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to know what's coming up here from this Mage of Nesimuistyk, because he queued a 50-50 there. I quite like Mage against the Shaman deck.
Yeah, Mage is pretty good against Shaman. I mean, especially if it's the Mage that's running double Volcanic Potion. We've seen quite a few of the Mage do so. And it's just one good way of, A, dealing with aggro, but also dealing with these pesky tokens. Because what do we say? Deal 2 damage. That's how it works. It's not a Mage, though.
That's actually a Druid, which explains a lot about it.
Okay. Can I just point out, I had Druid written down, and then you said Mage, and I put question mark Mage?
Yeah.
I was a little bit confused. Okay, the Mage was banned. Both Mages were banned from both players. I thought so.
Okay.
So, Druid for Nesimuistyk. Now, this is a tricky situation.
So this explains everything.
Yes, this explains more so, as Mitsuhide playing the Evolved Shaman should have the advantage going into this one, as we touched on earlier. Typically, Token Shaman against Jade Druid does fantastically.
Yeah, it's just a decent-looking start, though, keeping the Innovate into Jade Blossom, which at least is going to give him that mana advantage, which means if he can draw into his Jade Spirits in particular, just because they make 2 minions, so they challenge the board a little better, and will give him a chance, but the Doppelgangster Evolve is the killer in this. First of all, the Druid can just about deal with all the minions at the start, sometimes.
It's not an unwinnable matchup, that's for sure. It's not like a crazy, oh, this is definitely a win for Mitsuhide situation. I mean, if there is any stabilization from Nesimuistyk and he can get the Primordial Drakes out a little bit later, get those board clears, get a decent swipe on the go, then potentially there's a way back into this series, because certainly if you can win this game with Jade Druid, then Mitsuhide is in a position where he needs to try and win with Mage and Paladin.
Yeah, and then things do get a bit trickier, like a lot trickier, like you say. And interesting that Mitsuhide keeping the Druid up in that situation. But the bans will make a bit more sense now. And just going as wide as he can early. And this is the problem. No swipe at the moment for Nesimuistyk. So he's got to work out when he wants to use this Auctioneer, because you can't be as greedy as you would like to with it in this match.
Yeah, sometimes you just put it on the board, get one draw with it, and say, well, it might work out as just a taunt in this situation. Yep. He will want to remove this off the board. It might just accumulate 4 damage that could instead be heading towards my face. And
the other option as well with the Auctioneer here is, like, next turn, if he draws badly, he may have to Innovate Aya and just blow up the Auctioneer by losing that Innovate that the Auctioneer wants to work so well with into Wrath. That would be great, but if he doesn't draw anything to do next turn, the board's going to start getting beyond him, and he's going to have to burn the Innovate. So his planning there will be, please let me draw not Jade Behemoth next turn.
Which is weird, he can draw. Sometimes against aggro, you do want to be drawing the Jade Behemoth.
Yeah, but with a Flame Tongue coming down, that would just go straight through.
Although I don't know if I'd class this as aggro, to be honest. I say aggro.
It's just horrible, right? It's an aggressive deck that then just keeps hitting you. As all the good decks are at the moment, like the mid-range Murloc Paladin is the same thing. comes down, it hits you in the face, it slows down a bit, drops a Tyrion, starts again.
And sometimes it's just so hard to come back against these decks as well when they start running away with it.
Yeah.
A swipe would be absolutely beautiful for Nesimuistyk, but let's draw one. As you said, is this somewhat of a dead draw for you, Lorinda?
That looks a bit grim, to be fair.
I mean, you could just
You could deal with
Rage.
bits, yeah.
Yeah, you could Feral Rage, deal with the Stonehill Defender, and then Wrath the Primal Fin, just leaving 3 1/1s. You've got to follow up next turn of Ire or Auctioneer into Innovate into something.
This is how this deck uses Bloodlust so efficiently. There's 4 attack on board. And we're treating it like the scariest board ever. Because we know, from playing this a million times,
Could be
that
19.
it's actually 19 damage most of the time. Or could be. That's the problem, you don't know. And so you have to deal with things that aren't even meant to be a threat.
Certainly a tricky turn for Nesi. Good old Nesimuistyk. And I say that because you were considering earlier, oh, do you innovate into Ire? He's thinking, do I need to draw cards? And the decision is yes. I actually want to be drawing cards. He's saying, I don't care about this Primal Fin Totem at the moment because I might be able to draw into a swipe.
Yep.
And if I can draw into a swipe, it's potentially game winning.
Yeah, he's managed to keep the Auctioneer Innovate for something for next turn, but that one was just going to be replaced, like you say, just straight up looking for more things to do. And that isn't very useful right now. Oh dear. So Mitsuhide now can be a bit more aggressive with his hand because he has the Doppelgangster Evolve to fall back on. He can now just try and kill Nesimuistyk with the small stuff in hand, not worry too much. He knows there's no swipe, not worry too much about what's going on, and then if it goes to pieces, just play Doppelgangster and Evolve and have a load more stuff.
Yeah, alternatively, could just go for an Evolve now if he really wanted. He could play a couple of Firefly and Flame Elemental and then Evolve. I don't like it, but it does play around the likes of Swipe, at least from his point of view, depending on what kind of statistics you get from the Evolve. But it looks like he'll most likely play the patient game. Certainly with the Doppelgangster in hand, you are reluctant to go for that Evolve.
Now, interesting the way he set this board up, because apart from Bloodlust, Nesimuistyk's got not much to fear from this board. Because there's now, Mitsuhide couldn't have played the Flame Tongue. There's sometimes an option there where that's just not possible, but obviously Nesimuistyk has to respond by playing something, which means you're going to just be able to trade off your minions to get that Flame Tongue down in good time.
Yeah, Mitsuhide can trade one of his minions in first and then play the Flame Tongue. He has patches as well, so that's an extra 3 damage that's just going to be jumping out of the hand if you would like it. So he can clear this board up very nicely and then just push some damage to face. And as you said earlier, quite rightly, Lorinda, the fact that he has a fallback of Doppelgangster Evolve, he's going to be feeling in an extremely comfortable position. But Nesimuistyk, however, it's looking pretty grim.
It is. Just look at the positioning here, talking of comfortable positions from Mitsuhide, making sure that Flame Tongue Totem is towards the left because he's got relentless stuff coming from that Primal Fin Totem. He puts the Taunt next to the Flame Tongue so that it can't be killed without doing 7 damage to the face a lot of the time, because a lot of the time you finish it off with Swipe plus Hero Power. And in general, he just kept all the small stuff that he's just going to trade away to the right of that. So considering every aspect of the game, not just hitting your opponent in the face, but exactly how you want to hit them in the face and with what tools.
Fandral into Feral Rage will just allow him to survive a little bit longer from his point of view. He's going to, of course, be hoping there's no Bloodlust drawn. That would be a little bit scary for him.
I don't want to be with you in a really scary situation, if that's just a little bit scary.
It's a little bit scary. It's just, you know, the series over and you're falling to 5 and 2.
Right, so obviously the option is just to trade in patches for an additional 3 damage here if he wants it. He does still have that Doppelgangster Evolve ready whenever something might take a turn for the worst. But he'll be thinking of how to win this game in 2 turns from this point. You can't let Fandral sit around if Nesimuistyk is going to get back into it. Fandral is definitely the card that would do it. But you can see Nesimuistyk sort of staring into space a little bit now already. It's like, can you just kill me, please, so I can get on with the next round?
Yeah, it's always a tough situation when you're playing a deck that mainly focuses around late game and you just haven't been able to keep up with the early game of any sort of token or aggressive build. Mitsuhide, however, is not taking any risks, making sure that he does just eliminate everything of threat off the board. And actually, he's pulling the trigger now. He's saying, I'm going to make room for my Doppelgangsters and I'm going to evolve. I've already got a thing for below on the board. and that might just be GG.
Yeah, that wasn't even a particularly great evolve, and it's still absolutely fine. It's just fine.
I mean, it was somewhat of a risk. The only way he was going to lose that game was a Doomsayer coming off that 1-mana totem that was on the board. So, did he need to evolve? Probably not. Is he going to win him the game earlier? Yes.
I guess.
I mean, it's a very small risk.
I'm just thinking, how much he could have done. But you're right, he could have traded in the patches for 3 damage. He could have traded in, just left the Primal Fin doing its thing, and had a threat. So, yeah, okay. And it's about 1 in 83 or something, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. So 23 damage on board. And Nesimuistyk can put himself up to, what, 27? Innovate out, 28.
Yeah. And there's lightning and a patches to worry about.
So that will be that then. Mitsuhide is going to be able to sweep up this series 3-0. The former champ showing why he was a former champ at a DreamHack Grand Prix by finishing this one off with his Evolve Shaman, a deck that has really shown prowess throughout the tournament, to be honest. It's been seen in most people's decks, most people's lists, and he's really showing why it is so strong. Yeah,
just straight through 3-0 there. Didn't really look in danger apart from maybe in the Paladin game briefly. There had been a consecration, perhaps there was a board change, but yeah, Token Shaman seems to be the deck of the tournament.
It seems like Mitsuhide. Right, it's so close to actually get that, right? One more win,
right,
and he's almost guaranteed to be in the top 16.
And it feels like he's the defending champion because that was in this building in Jönköping, even though we've had the Austin, Texas? Texas, Austin? What? Yeah, since then, it feels like he's the defending champion here at DreamHack Summer.
Correct. But he was actually in the command in every single game, right?
Yeah.
So, it just looked like Nesimuistyk was kind of behind every single game, kind of wanted to claw back, especially with the Druid, but decks were not aligning. He was always battling a bad matchup. Apart from the mirror match.
It was a good decision from Mitsuhide to bring the Evolve Shaman first. The fact he won that first game against the Paladin, that was the big one for him. And then Nezi was in a position where he was like, well, okay, I've got Druid or I've got Shaman. I either take the mirror, hope I win it. If I lose the mirror, I'm in a situation where I could get 3-0 sweeped. Unfortunately, in the mirror, he wasn't able to draw well. You could see the frustration was starting to sit in. He was kind of waving at the camera and he was rolling his eyes a little bit. Frustration for him, but he is still in the tournament.
Yeah,
that's true.
Patch is just not the card you want in your opening hand. We all know that one.
Although there are some shaky plays, right? With an example in the first game with the Paladin, he opted to play 2/1 Murlocs instead of just going for the Hydrologist, which set him back like a little bit, right? So there were some minor things that could have affected the entire outcome of the game. Something maybe to think about later on. But now we're gonna go to the second game, which will be Terrence versus Dan. So, yeah, we have it on the screen. Exactly. Terrence is actually a player who, in Texas Austin 2016, was in the top 8. He actually had a really ridiculously good performance back then. He was losing round 1 and was still going deep in the run of the Swiss, going to the top 8. So here is actually in a very similar spot. He lost his first round, and now he's sitting at 5-1.
Wow, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I've got the notes here. He's 27-10 in Grand Prix DreamHack since 2016. That's 27 wins, 10 losses. And he also won Montreal, which doesn't count in those stats.
Wow.
Because it wasn't a Grand Prix event. So he went like 9-0 in that as well, or something crazy in the Swiss.
True that. But the score is currently 1-0 for Terrence. And we're going to jump into the game now. So casters, again, please take it away.
Terrence versus Den then is